Hello guys, what is up? This is officially my first video on my YouTube channel aside from the intro video. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this one, and this video is going to be the history of Somalia and the origins of its conflicts. Just a disclaimer, the first disclaimer is, which is not written on the PowerPoint, is that the reason why I'm covering this issue instead of Ukraine at this moment is because I just feel like I don't have the place to discuss this issues because I am like nowhere near a professional. I'm just a student, and I'm just having fun. So I don't think I have the authority to, talk about the Ukrainian conflict. I mean, nor do I have authority to talk about the Boko Haram issue at all. But I just felt like there's an abundance of good YouTube videos on the internet that discuss the issue, and I just felt like me making a video and talking about it isn't just really effective. So yeah. And second disclaimer is that when I make jokes and try to make things funny, I'm not making fun of these people. Obviously this is a terrible thing. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Okay, so first of all, what is Somalia? Somalia is a federalized parliamentary republic. It is a part of League of Arab States, and its president is Mohammed Abdullahi Mohammed. I'm sorry if that pronunciation was terrible. And unfortunately, it is not very stable, and we'll get to why that is. So the reason why the country is not stable is because of the Al-Shabaab. And Al-Shabaab is a terrorist group based in Somalia, and it's considered to be a branch of Al-Qaeda. And much like Al-Qaeda, it wishes to create an Islamic state within Somalia. It is mostly comprised of Somalian youth, and though it has been kind of, mostly defeated thanks to the African Union, it is still a big threat to Somalian security. So yeah, that's why I'm talking about it in this YouTube video. So first of all, let's dive into the history of Somalia and why it is such a mess now. So pre-colonization Somalia, it was pretty cool. Somalia itself was at a very advantageous position. As you can see, it's right next to the ocean. So it had a very thriving trade with the Arabian nations, and the north was usually more Islamic because, as you can see, it was very close to where these Islamic ideologies were, spreading. And although not much is very known, there's not much historical documentation about these people. It is known that the people of the south, I believe, were more nomadic, so that is good to know. And then discovery. This is where shit goes down. The Europeans found it, I guess, in quotation marks, during the 19th century, and during the 1883, the British penetrated the country, and the Italians did too about the same time. And this was around the time where most of the countries was mapped by these Europeans. So yeah, now this country is getting known to the European world. So now colonization starts to happen. So there was an initial kind of competition between the Italians, the British, and the French to who will take care of this country, who will, the word is "dagdamoki" in Korean, who will take which part of the country. And the British eventually got the north, the Italians got the south, and French got Djibouti. Very funny. And the British experienced revolts during the late 19th century, the early 20th century by the Ogaden clan, and these people wanted to establish Islam against the British, kind of Christian rule, and their campaign was very effective, but they were pushed back by Camel Constabulary. Italians took real control from 1905, and there was some rebellion that caused but it caused less chaos than how they did in British Somaliland. So it is a bit of a different situation here. And mostly it was just plantations in Italian Somaliland, and Italy didn't actually take complete control over the entirety of southern Somalia, unlike the British, which had a complete reign on Somaliland. So that is also a bit of a difference of how these two areas of Somalia kind of developed and how they functioned under these imperial rule. So independence, question mark? There's a question mark because it's kind of, it's very messy. So during World War II, the British had to back off because, they were running out of resources, and Italians took the northern part of Somalia as well. Using British military establishments that was priorly existing before the Italians took over, they could use that to make successes in politics and social regards. And then as time passes on, Italians also left because of the World War, and everything became the Somalian Republic. So though there was a distinction with the southern and then northern Somalia, it just became one thing, because yay, imperialism. So the country experienced heavy consequences of colonialism, and there was allegiances within the country, but fast emerging post-separation between the North and the South, because the North was occupied by the British and the South was occupied by the Italians, so they have totally separate communication. You can kind of imagine, there's telephone lines in the British and then the Italians, and it wasn't merging very well. So independent government in the North and South were formed, though foreign efforts tried to reunite them. So this is where it just gets really messy thanks to imperialism. So Kenyan Somali is basically a group of people who are ethnically kind of Somalian, but then Kenya is no, this is our people. So Somalia is supporting these people to gain, much like the Russian conflict, I guess. Somalia is I'm going to support them and wage war against Kenya, because I think they're an independent nation. So this causes guerrilla war between the two states, and at this point, Somalia also broke relations with the British. So just kind of think of Somalia being very antagonistic with Europe, and they also had to fight with Ethiopia because of territorial and a political kind of discourse. And this time, Ethiopia and Kenya were backed by the U.S. So Somalia had to ask help from the USSR because that's the only opposing force. So and this entire conflict came to an end kind of soon. But Somalia asking help from the USSR, that is very significant. And because of that, communism kind of proliferated in Somalia. So in 1969, Somalia elects an authoritarian leader, and this president gets murdered by the coup d'etat that was, posed by the communist extremists, and the military employs scientific socialism. So this really strengthened ties with the East and break ties with the West, as you can imagine. And it was very coercive. It was, heavy military involved, and there was almost clan behavior because, as I said before, previously to all this colonization, Somalia was kind of nomadic state. So these people tried to form clans, and it was just not a very fun time for the Somalian people. Though it kind of did improve the country thanks to this authoritarian rule, people were able to accomplish economic success to some degree, and the military leader also joined the Arab League at this point. Ogaden is also a very sensitive kind of area, much like the Kenyan Kenyan Somali. The Ogaden people, as Ethiopia is falling apart, guerrilla fighters in Somalia pushed into Ogaden to expand their territory, and at this time, French granted independence to Djibouti, and through this, Somalia launched violent attacks to Somalia. As you can see, Djibouti's right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's there. It's a different spelling, but anyways. And during this time, the USSR creates ties with Ethiopia because it had ties with USSR, and obviously the USSR wants to have as much influence over states as possible. So, with the USSR in Ethiopia, it takes over Ogaden. And obviously, a lot of people were disappointed because of this defeat, and people were disappointed in the military regime. So there's two separate opposition groups to the military, which is the SSDF, or which was in the center of Somalia, and SNMC, which was in the north of Somalia. I have no idea what those stand for, so sorry, but you guys can look into that. And they tried to ease tension by improving relations with Ethiopia and Kenya, but this actually made it worse because, like, they just didn't know how to they just didn't know how to make diplomacy, and it just became a mess. So, yeah, I believe this means that SNMC kind of merged with the Ogaden Somalis, and then that became a USC, and USC took power, but outside the main city, nobody really cared, and nobody really considered them as a official leader of Somalia, so everyone was like, I don't care, and all these groups, these different clans, and the SMMC and whatever, they all fought each other, so they kind of went into civil war. And peace? Question mark? Because during 1990 and 2011 efforts were made to make peace, but it mostly failed. And in 2011, an Islamic central government was formed, which was also diplomatic. Not diplomatic, democratic is the word I'm looking for. And in 2012, there was an obvious decline of attacks, and the African Union and the UN tries to keep that peace, but as you know, the Al-Shabaab and everything is still going on, so Somalia is still very much considered a failed state at this point. So, yeah, last words. It is very important to note that Somalia, the current state of Somalia, is another product of colonialism, and due to the fragmentation of the state, it led to a war-torn country at the brink of disappearing. So, this is just another evidence to why colonialism and imperialism is not a great thing to have in our world. And I guess another thing is, yeah, the sources that I referenced for this video was Britannica, mostly, and some Wikipedia articles. So if you would want to research more about this issue and consider that my explanation was kind of shitty, then you guys can look at that video. So, thank you for watching my video, and I will see you in the next one.